We got Bobby Carter and Eric Birch. They want to raise their hands and show everybody who's who. We will go with opening statements. We did a coin toss earlier and predetermined that Mr. Carter will go first. He has 2 minutes for his opening statement, and then Mr. Birch.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bobby Carter, and I want to be your next circuit court judge. I grew up in Tullahoma. I graduated from Tullahoma High School. My wife, Lisa, grew up here. I graduated from Coffee County High School. Together, we've raised 5 children. I graduated from the Citadel, Military College, South Carolina. Went there on a full scholarship. Graduated from the University of Tennessee College of Law. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I served in the Judge Advocate General's Corps. That's where I got my first seasoning in being a trial attorney. I bounced around a little bit, but I moved back here, and I've come to love the citizens of this county and this jurisdiction. I decided some time ago that I would run for circuit court judge. I've probably tried more jury trials than any currently practicing attorney in this jurisdiction. I'm not positive of that, but I have tried a lot of them. In 30 years, I have had a lot of legal experiences and run a lot of judges. It has not all been peachy. I've had some various storms that have come up in my life, but what I found are that the bad experiences don't necessarily be bad experiences until you turn them into good experiences. And what I mean by that is that if you learn from your experiences, then that is an experience that you can forward on to the people that come in front of you as a judge. Folks, we face a lot of challenges coming up in the next 8 years. I would urge you to look around, and what I really urge is there's an old English saying that the proof is in the pudding. This is what my pudding is. If there are any questions about my professionalism or my fidelity or my fairness, I would ask anybody, any of the voters, potential voters, to talk to anybody in any courthouse within 50 miles of here, anybody in any district attorney's office, anybody in any public defender's office, anybody in law enforcement, any court reporter, any other attorney. We have some judges here that are getting ready to retire. I would urge you to ask the sitting judges that are getting ready to retire, judges on the bench, both in this district and out of this district, who has the best temperament to become your next circuit judge. And I feel confident that when you've seen all of the evidence, and I mean all of the evidence, that you will find that I will be the candidate that is most likely to take care of you all, the citizens that come before you. I don't have any affiliations with anybody. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Next will be Mr. Birch. 2 minutes.
Hello. Are these on, Josh?
They're on. It should be.
All right. First of all, I would like to wish my daughter Abigail a happy 18th birthday. With that said, it's time we have a serious discussion, folks. To be qualified as a judge, you have to be licensed in good standing and 30 years old. Mr. Carter here could not run for sheriff, even if he had the requisite law enforcement experience. Mr. Carter could not even run for constable. In order to run for constable, you have to be able to read and write, and you have to not have been convicted of a felony, ever. The state of Tennessee is passing a law as we speak that adds a qualification for judges in the state of Tennessee. It says that if you have been censured, suspended, or disbarred for an act of dishonesty in the past 10 years, you can't be elected judge. Now, that may or may not impact this election. Over the course of 12 to 18 months, Mr. Carter stole at least $80,000 from his longtime friends and law partners. It wasn't a one-time deal. He was not a young man when he did this. He was about my age. He was suspended for 5 years from the practice of law. He wasn't fully reinstated until 2016. He pled guilty in a court of law to felony theft. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Why is the law that any law enforcement officer, from a constable to the head of the TBI, cannot have a felony conviction? Second question is, should these qualifications for the leader of an entire judicial system be at least as stringent as those of constables? Third question is, do we want someone as the leader of the judicial system in Coffee County who would steal from his longtime partners, longtime friends, If he did that to them, what is he going to do to the rest of us? I really can't believe I'm having to sit up here and say this today. It's an important conversation and one that has to be had. Nobody's had it to this point. I've waited for Mr. Carter to tell the truth, and he simply has not done it. So, thank you.
With that, instead of moving on to questions, we're going to let Mr. Carter address that 2 minutes.
For the 5th time in 2 years, I'll address this. Everybody in this room knows that about 15 years ago, that'd be a decade and a half, I broke my neck in a car wreck, and my very good doctor, I'm not blaming him, he knew a lot about the spines, but he knew a lot about genetics. He prescribed me 120 oxycodones for about 4 months, and after the end of that 4 months, I was a drug addict. I've always been forthcoming about that. As a matter of fact, that was in my application last year to the Judicial Trial Court Vacancy Commission. And by the way, I made it through TBI checks. I made it to the governor's legal office. I was one of the top 3 candidates that went to the governor. Now, I'm not going to address all the factual inaccuracies in my colleague's attack, but what I will say is this. Among the many bad things that I did 15 years ago, I did not turn over fees that I earned from my law firm. Now, when my head cleared up and all this came to light, within about 2 months, I signed a document that fully paid them back and then some. Now, this has been hung around my neck for 15 years. You know, Easter is coming up, and most of us in here are Christians, and we believe in redemption, and we believe a man can redeem himself. St. Paul. Torturing Christians one day, dying for Christianity the next. A man is the sum of his parts. Go ask the people in these courtrooms who is the most qualified. They know everything about me. They grew up with me. They saw me in the bad times. They saw me in the good times. Which, by the way, the good times have been about the last 15 years. I have spent the rest of my life trying to make it up to these people. I ask you to fairly, and look at this, I'm on the ballot, I will be on the ballot, despite the best efforts of a lot of people in this state. I ask you to consider me the good and the bad. You're going to have children that have drug problems that are going to come in front of me. You're going to have grandparents. You're going to have parents, you're going to have moms, dads. This affects everybody. Who better to know it than somebody that's been through it? And I suggest that that's me. Thank you very much.
Mr. Carter, we appreciate you being here this evening. I'm Rob Butters, super part-time employee at Thunder Radio. We had requested from listeners and readers of the website to submit questions, and we've selected some of those questions to ask each of you this evening. We'll start with this one. This goes to both candidates. Who would go first? Do what? Bobby, go first? All right, so you go first, and then Ed. And I can repeat it later on if I need to. Tom in Manchester says that he feels like the judicial system in Coffee County moves slower than surrounding counties. He wants to know what, if anything, that you can do as a judge to move the process quicker.
The judicial system in this county is a 2-judge, 1-county district. There is no reason for the cases to move slower in this county than other counties, but it does tend to move slower. Mr. Birch has a plan that he has contrived with the sitting judge, Mr. Lockhart, that he's published in the newspapers, and he wants to reduce the criminal judge docket from 2 judges to 1 judge. Now I want you to ask yourself, is that going to make it slower or is that going to make it faster? Well, I suggest to you that it's going to make it slower. My answer to this would be that you have to have 3 people that want to move a case forward. You have to have the judge, you have to have the district attorney or the prosecutor, and you have to have the defense lawyer. In a private case, you have to have both the plaintiff's lawyer and the defendant's lawyer and the judge. My suggestion is to have more aggressive docketing calls. And by the way, I want to commend Judge Lockhart because he's doing that right now. That's my solution. But we need 2 criminal court judges. There's no doubt about that. This system of 1 criminal court judge and 1 civil court judge is simply unworkable. You can't get a trial right now for a year for a person that's arraigned today. Think of and that's with 2 judges. That's with Judge Jackson, who's going to retire, and that's with the current sitting judge. Think of what it's going to be like with 1. I suggest that it needs to stay the way it is. The docketing call needs to be more aggressive. By the way, we have about 360 people that we're feeding and housing out here in the county jail that are waiting on their trials. We need to get those people taken care of so the state of Tennessee can take care of them, or they can go on probation or whatever their case needs to be. But that's my solution. The solution that's been proposed by my opponent is not going to work. Thank y'all.
Mr. Birch, would you like me to repeat that question, please?
No, sir, I've got it.
All right, thank you.
First of all, it was not 15 years. That's just another example of inaccuracies. It's all public record. You can look at the dates. It's there. I do have a plan. I'm the only one that has a plan. It's a misrepresentation of my plan, and Mr. Carter knows it, that I won't handle criminal cases. I'm going to have to handle criminal cases. What I propose is that the more minor offenses are handled by Judge Lockhart, and the Class A and Class B felonies, for instance, are handled by half by me and half by him. Okay? That's what the plan is. And I'm open to discussion. I've talked to Craig Northcott. I've talked to the Public Defender's Office. I've talked to the Clerk's Office. I've actually talked to these people, and I have a plan. Okay? I'm not going to get into the weeds of what the plan is, but I'm a board certified family law specialist, one of only 9 in the entire state of Tennessee. I'm the most qualified candidate to handle divorce and domestic relation cases. I've handled over 3,000 of them. I think those are the most important cases that judges, circuit court judges hear, because they're dealing with children. Okay? Children don't get to pick their parents. I think it's very important. Currently, under the current system, each judge only has 1 day a month to devote to domestic relation cases, temporary orders, things of that nature. Busy lawyers are busy people, and it's going to get worse. Calendars are going to get worse. I will offer a day every single week in divorce cases or custody cases or whatever that may be. So a mother is not waiting for 2 or 3 months before she can get the support she needs. Or a father doesn't have to wait 2 or 3 months before he can see his kids. There are 100 different examples. Frankly, it's more important than the criminal system, in my opinion. But I think the criminal system is important too. There's no reason for somebody to be in jail for a year at our expense, the taxpayers. There's just simply no reason for it. I will have a plan. Judge Lockhart and I will work together. We've worked together for 6 years. We've never had an argument. We will talk about cases. We're going to be right over in the same office. I can walk across the hall.
Ding. Okay, so this will be for both candidates. Mr. Carter, go first. If you're currently running a successful private practice law firm, why would you leave that to run for judge?
Boy, I'm sure wondering that right now. Why would I put myself through this? Most lawyers run from their disciplinary record. They want to bury it. They want to hide it. Most lawyers don't want you to know that they've been in trouble. Most people don't want you to know that they were a drug addict. But I learned something in recovery in the 500 AA meetings, 1,500 AA meetings I attended, and large assistance program meetings, and going and trying to work with people that are trying to get through this. And this is what I learned. That if I'm open about my addiction, and I've had this happen, somebody will come to me after court, or they'll come to me after some whatever proceeding or whatever meeting, and they'll come to me and they'll say, "Bobby, do you think I might have a problem?" So there are two reasons why I've been open about this, and getting back to the private practice, there are two reasons I'm open about that. One is I'm going to help somebody if they hear it, if I'm open about it. And number two is I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I may not get voted for, I may not get your vote, but I hope I got a little bit of your respect. I opened my law practice from ground zero. I was broke on April Fool's Day of 2012. My life was in shambles. I was just starting to put it together. My marriage was rocky. My faith was strong. And a lot of people suggested to me, Bobby, you're probably not going to be able to come back here. You might want to work. And I had opportunities in Nashville, and I had opportunities in Martinsburg and Chattanooga. But I decided to plant my flag right here because people knew me here. I'm 59 years old, and I didn't want to go down being remembered by the 4 worst years of my life. And I don't want y'all to remember me by the 4 worst years of my life. I want y'all to remember me by the 55 good years of my life. My law practice is fine, but I feel like I've been called to do something else. I figure God saved me back during that hurricane of bad judgment, and He saved me for a purpose. Thank y'all.
Mr. Birch? Well, first of all, he just made the point. 2012 was 10 years ago, and he talked about the previous 4 years. That'd be 14 years at the most, okay? Not 15 years. The short answer to that question for me is I intend to retire from my current law practice if I'm not named judge. The system is currently it's a hard way to make money and make a living for my family. There are other business interests that I have that I've been successful at. I'm not ashamed of that. I will always maintain a law practice, and I will help people that I want to help, and that's it. So that's why I'm doing this. I think I'd be good at it. I think I could make a difference in the legal system. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, next question. According to Sheriff Parton, about 80% of inmates in the Coffee County Jail are incarcerated on pretrial misdemeanors. When weighing the cost of housing inmates and the strain on county resources versus the safety of the community at large, do you view this as serving the intended purpose of the jail and judicial system? What is your role as a judge in these matters? And you're first.
That all comes along with the plan. Currently, each circuit court judge has court 2 regular criminal days per month, okay? Judge Lockhart would hold criminal cases every single week, and we've got a great staff. We're keeping them all together. We intend to slot cases. If Jason Ponder has a motion that's going to take a half an hour, rather than have Jason Ponders sit in court from 9 o'clock until 3:30, waiting on that motion to be called, our secretaries, Lisa Scheffler, Teresa Burton, are going to schedule slot things. And we're going to work together. And we're going to stop wasting all of this time, which is what is happening now. This is not a criticism of prior judges. Coffee County has changed. Our population since I started practicing law has increased by 50%, and it's going to get worse, okay? We want to do things a smarter way. My opponent has yet to offer any sort of plan. He just talks in platitudes and does not talk in specifics. I'm talking in specifics. I'm open to ideas. I'm sure that my plan is not as good as it can be. I want to work with the DA's office. I want to work with the public defender's office. I want to work with the drug court. I want to work with DCS. There are 18 lawyers here in Coffee County that it's their job to make Coffee County the best judicial system it can be. I want to work with all 18 of those people and make it happen. It has to happen. It must happen. This is not good enough. Let's make it better. I have a plan. I'd love to hear Mr. Carter's. Thank you.
Mr. Carter, same question. Would you like me to repeat that?
No, I've got it.
Thank you.
In 30 years, I've been in front of court-martial judges, I've been in federal judges, I've been in front of state judges, I've been in front of general sessions judges, I've been in front of district court judges, I've been in front of claims commissioners, I've been in front of admiralty judges. So I've gotten to talk to a judge or two in 30 years. And when Judge Vanessa Jackson, who's leaving, the term that we both see, when she first got on the bench, I was joking around with her and I was talking with her back in chambers, and she didn't have a criminal background. She was a very good civil judge. And like me, she'd been at it 30 years before she decided to run for judge. And I asked her, I said, well, have you figured out what your job is? And she said, I think I have. My job is to keep this set of people away from this set of people. This is what she meant, I think. Oh, and by the way, ask her who she thinks ought to fill her seat. What she means is this: we have a limited amount of money to house these people. I mean, we've gone to great expense to build this jail. And folks, it's not a jail, it's a prison. It is a 400-bed prison. If you've ever gone out there, I encourage you to take a tour. And it's very professionally run, and it's very expertly run. It's got a tower, just like the prison shows you see on TV. But it's expensive. State of Tennessee and the federal government gives a certain amount of money to house these prisoners and to maintain this jail. So you have a limited amount of resources to which you have to devote to this. So here's what you have to do. And this, again, Ms. Jackson told me this: we put people in jail because we're mad at them or we're scared of them. So what you have to do as a trial judge, and I don't have a detailed plan, all I can promise y'all is to do my duty. But what you have to do is you have to figure out who you're mad at and who you're scared of. In other words, you have to determine public safety, and you have to put the most deserving people, the people that have earned a spot in there, need to be in there, and everybody else needs to be on bond or their cases need to be resolved. It's a matter of judgment. It's just using your judgment, and I have 30 years of judgment that I think I can put to use. Thank y'all.
All right, for time reasons, last question. I'm going to give each a minute on this one. And Mr. Carter, you'll go first. And then after that, you'll have time to give your closing thoughts. What are your thoughts regarding treatment courts such as drug court, veterans court, and other rehabilitation services available here?
I'm going to ask the people here in the room and the people listening out in the audience and the voters, who do you think might be the better background equipped candidate to run or to oversee the drug court or the veterans court? I would suggest to you that that would be me. Now, it's been suggested that we only have 8 patients in the Coffee County Drug Court at current time, and that was suggested by my opponent in the last debate. And I'm going to ask y'all think there's more than 8 people in Coffee County that need drug court? If you do, go over there to the jail and take a tour. I think that the role in the drug courts and the veterans courts are essential, because what it does is it diverts people out of that system where we're paying for them. Or we're going to have to pay for them anyway. But at least if we have them in a system where we can meet with them and where we can encourage them to follow the law and follow the mandates of their probation, and we can keep them out of that jail and out of the penitentiary, it saves us all money and it makes us good citizens. I mean, that's what we want, right? We preach redemption and we preach put the bottle down, put the drugs down, quit doing wrong, and make yourself better. We need to put some heart and soul behind that. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can. If it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And if I can do it, anybody can do it if they just put their foot forward. But they need proper leadership, and they need proper guidance, and they need a little bit of humanity. And I suggest to you that I offer that. Thanks.
Mr. Bird.
Thank you. First of all, I'm not going to apologize for not being a drug addict. And it's just like, here he goes again. It's not 8 people in drug or veteran court, it's 6 people in drug or veteran court. And the circuit court judge has absolutely no say-so in who is admitted to either of those courts. That decision belongs with General Northcott, working with the defense attorneys, public and private. And it is his discretion, not the judge's. Judge Lockhart handles the Veterans Court, Judge Perry handles the drug court. Both are committed to those. In fact, I know they are not going to give those up willingly to Mr. Carter. It's just not going to happen. I would encourage you, since Mr. Carter brought it up, ask Judge Perry and Judge Lockhart who they think is better qualified to be the next circuit court judge. Ask them. Thank you.
All right, we got a minute apiece to close. Mr. Birch will go first.
I'm not going to say anything else about Mr. Carter. Frankly, I feel sorry for him. I have a vision. It's always bothered me that Coffee County, Tullahoma, Manchester always seem to be at odds. They always seem to be pulling apart rather than pulling together. My vision is for them to work together. And I've got a plan for the legal community, and I think it'll work. Open ideas, but that's not all. We've got things like schools, city and county governments, the medical community, the real estate community, planning and zoning, banks, industries, roads, retail, religious organizations. Every bit of that could be better. It should be better. It must be better. If we were all pulling together in the same direction, think what we could accomplish. That's my vision, and that's going to be my goal for the next 8, 16, 24 years, however long I'm alive and well. I intend to seek that vision and work on it and work to make this a better place where our kids, where Mr. Carter's kids, he's got a daughter that goes to NYU. There are very little, if any, opportunities for her or my kids. We want talented kids to have a reason to come back to Coffee County and have opportunities. They don't exist right now. We can do better. We must do better. Thank you.
Mr. Carter?
I'm going to get a little repetitive. Lawyers are accused of doing that. I told you at the beginning of this that the proof is in the pudding. Ask any courthouse worker, ask anybody in any DA's office, ask any attorney, ask any court reporter in any courthouse in southern Middle Tennessee or the federal courts down in Chattanooga about me. If there's any doubts about my professionalism, my integrity, my honesty, my fairness, ask them. The proof is in the pudding. Now, I am not a perfect person. That ought to be evident by now. But courts are not instruments of perfect people. People don't wake up in the morning and say, yeah, I'm just having such a good day, I think I'll go to the courthouse. Courts are instruments to resolve conflicts between imperfect people, imperfect bodies, imperfect organizations. I haven't talked about specifics here. The specifics can come later. In 30 years, I've learned a thing or two. At the old Citadel at the University of Tennessee Law School, I've learned a little bit about how to practice law. In 30 years, I've learned a little bit about how to try a lawsuit, a civil case, a criminal case. They're all kind of the same. I'll tell you this, you screw up a civil case, you can put down an order that amends it. You screw up a criminal case and a guilty person may go free, an innocent person may go to jail, or these poor victims have to come testify again. I think my background in criminal law makes me particularly suited to this, but you guys know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the people out there that have problems. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That'll do it for our first segment with the Circuit Court Judge candidates Eric Birch and Bobby Carter. For folks back on the radio,